Hey everybody, thought that I would jump back into Satisfactory. This will probably be the last one that'll be streamed just because of the nature of Satisfactory. In case you haven't noticed with the previous playthroughs, a lot of it is just kind of grinding, and then you get the big payoff where you unlock something or you build something really cool. So for this one, I thought that I would pretty much just show how I changed things up, the unlocks that I had, and then just kind of show the plans for the future of what I'm going to do. Kind of give you a couple build ideas of what I'm doing in here. But first, let's go ahead and look at our unlocks. So over here in the man, you can come over and you can see that there's a few other things in here. So there's the Caterium line, which is pretty useful, and the Quartz line, which is pretty useful. And so in the Quartz line, I unlock this right here, Blade Runners. We're going to go ahead and we're going to build those next, because that is one of the... pretty much when you start this game, you should immediately start looking for Quartz, because Blade Runners will just make your life so much easier. And the other thing that we're going to do is, because I came over here and unlocked, it's in tier 4, improved melee combat, we're going to make a melee basher too, which no more of the little tiny pokey stick that moves really slow. So let's go ahead and do that. Well, first let me show you around. So you'll notice that the biofuel generators are out of the way, so those are deleted. And you might notice that there's some other things here, and we got this here now. So this is not a I wouldn't call it a super efficient factory yet. The plan is, especially on the upper levels, once I unlock a few more things, I'll go ahead and I'll redesign that, just so it's really more efficient and producing a lot more stuff. Again, I kind of have to be a little bit careful with power consumption, although I did fix the issue with the coal plant, and I'll show you what I did there too. I think they did tweak the productivity of coal just a hair, and so it requires more water, or the water isn't as effective. So once I solved that issue, I was able to solve the power problem with the other two, but I'll show you that in a few minutes. So what I did was I cleared out everything below, and you can kind of see what I mean by that was a good deal of stuff. And then I just lifted it all up and put it up here. So all of the ore runs into this central line, and then it runs into smelters, which are right there. And I have enough room that I can put in more smelters, because eventually what you do is, these are only Mark 1 miners. You're able to unlock up to, I think, Mark 3, maybe Mark 4, I can't remember, but those are quite a bit faster. They'll push out a lot more ore a lot faster, and they use a lot more energy. So you're always kind of racing your power consumption, and that's kind of one of the things I'm going to get into in a minute. But first, let's go ahead and build those Blade Runners. So you come into the workshop, because it's equipment. You got Blade Runners are right there, and lo and behold, I have enough stuff to do it. So we're going to do that, almost like I planned it. So there's our Blade Runners. And so this is Xeno Zapper. This is what we got right now. And you can see I've got 2 in there. I basically pulled the one off my hand to put it in my inventory, which is kind of annoying that you have to do that, but I guess it makes sense. And you come down here, and with those 2 Xeno Zappers, you can make a Xeno Basher, which is right there. I really wish the Xeno Basher weren't fatal, but it is. Not that, this one. Okay, so we're going to take that, put that in our hands, and we're going to take that, and we're going to put it on our legs. So now, let me do a real quick comparison here, just to kind of show you the difference. So here I'm walking, here I'm running, and there I'm jumping. So let's go ahead and put these on our legs. There I'm walking, now I'm running, now I'm jumping. A lot further. So yeah, at this point with those, you can outrun the pigs. You can kind of see the little blue rim down at the bottom of the screen. That's my coffee cup, which is the thing that I typically run around with, because with this you can, oh yes, this. So this is Xeno Basher. Boom, got our little lightsaber. This is why I was having problems with these, because I had been swinging this for ages. But when you have the Blade Runners, you don't need it as much. Let's see, how do I want to do this? Let's look at this one last, because next, because I want to show you this thing over here first. So I went ahead and I upgraded the copper factory 2. So right up here we have 3 things that can be produced with copper at the moment, which is wire, cable, and sheets. And sheets are what you do for all of the plumbing, all of the water pipes, all the oil pipes. Pretty much anything that's a pipe is going to use those. Cables used for most electronics. Wires also used for electronics and used to build this. But there's a mine up here, and there's a pig, which I'm not seeing, but he can't get me because I built this up above where the pig is. So that is feeding down below, then it feeds up into this splitter, and we are just going to drop down, take a walk through this. So if you kind of want to make things look epic, that was a pig. I don't know where it is. If you want to make things look epic, build it with a higher ceiling. So these are generally, if you make it 2 or 3 tall, that's tall enough to fit one of these under. But everything will feel compressed and claustrophobic. There he is. Okay, we don't want to piss off that. Oh god, yeah, now I can actually jump up on top of these things. So anyway, we got our smelters here, and they're pumping out just as many things as possible. Now the reason that this is efficient is because this smelter gets 100% backed up, and then it only feeds one in every time it produces something. But as it does that, this one fills up now, and then this one fills up, and then this one fills up. And once all 4 of them are filled up, then it's 100% efficient. It just takes a little bit more time. I can hear you okay. They were getting on this platform, which is fine. But this is what I kind of like doing on some of my builds, is just kind of building it through the forest, just so that it has kind of a, sort of has a, okay, there he is. Getting out. Problem with nature is there's wildlife. Yeah. You can have it, I don't care. So, one of the things I do here is I've got a splitter here, and the first split, so I mean you can see that there's a lot of copper coming in here, and then there's not as much going there. That's because half of it is going out the other side, and I'll show you that in a second. So this one is coming in, and it's building 6 constructors that are just building wire. So it's taking half of this, all of these smelters are producing, and just producing wire. Let's see if I can do this jump. Yes, I can. And so the 3 on the bottom are feeding through that floor up to 3 more constructors up top there doing nothing but building wire. And so that way I make sure, oh no, those the 3 on the bottom are just feeding the wire over, because I want to have wire and cable, because you need both. These 3 on top are just kind of feeding through these mergers, sending all 3 of these top ones over here to these 3 constructors that are pushing out wire. So you can see the wires right there. And pretty soon this will back up and it won't be using up power anymore. But underneath, come down here, you can see that there's a line going off to the side that's got the copper ingots. And that comes over here to 6 lines there building the copper sheets. And you end up using a lot of copper sheets when you get into coal power and especially oil power. So you really want to build up your sheets early. But before you can do all of this, you have to have coal power up and running, because you can do this with bioburners. They're going to spend so much time running around picking up plants and stuff that it's not worth it. So I typically try to unlock coal before I do much of anything, which is why my initial build throughs take so long. But this is the end goal. So right now I've got enough power that I wonder if I can check the power on this. I think you can. Oh, so again, you can see how I run the power underneath. So that one's linked up to that one. So that way you don't have wires coming down from the roof or a wall. Some people like to do 2 walls and then they run the wire through like the wall and the half wall. I like to run it underneath if I can, just because it's so much cleaner. You're not looking at wires dangling from walls or roofs. But anyway, so this is the copper one, and this is sort of what I mean by making it kind of integrate with nature. So I mean it's open up top, it's just open aired. Eventually I'll have glass flooring that I can put in here. That'll kind of make some of this see-through and just make it feel a lot more airy in here. But for right now, just kind of has this sort of nature walk feel to it, even though it's got this nasty factory spewing out all that coal power, all the smoke. Okay, so let's go down here. So I said that I would use the jump pads. So I specifically kind of built this one with jump pads in mind. Usually I'll have like a ladder or stairs going up, but let's go ahead and take a look at this. So the first one is this one right here. So this one launches you right here. So you can see that I've got 16, I believe it's 16 smelters, just pushing out iron ingots. And there's enough room to put in probably 12 more, like 6 on a side. And I'll be doing that once I unlock the faster mining, just so that this is more efficient. And then you can kind of see, let's take a look here. So you can see that I split it right when it comes up, and then half of those ingots are going on one side and half of them are going on the other. And what I do from there is I could get up to the other one, but I wanted to show you what that other jump pad is for. So come on down here. So now we go to the one on the left. And that one takes us all the way up here. So now you can see that on this side I have it pushing out rods. So you can see the rods are going up there, and that's just straight rods. And then I have I have one of them produce. I have all of these are producing rods. This one has a splitter on it, so it's throwing rods this way and up that. Well, half of its rods are going this way, and half of its rods are going this way. And over here, these 4 constructors are just building screws. This one is building screws that are just 4 screws, so you use screws for a lot of other items later on, so you don't want to throw all of your screws into building components like rotors and reinforced plates, because then when you need screws, you're going to kind of be stuck in the same place that I was in the beginning, where you have to pull a bunch of rods and make screws. So you always want like a backup somewhere producing screws, if not a couple of them. But all the other screws, and you'll notice that this one is still very much alive. Like a lot of this is pretty backed up at this point. The other ones are going to make rotors and reinforced plates. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Another thing that I do when I'm not running things underneath like these are, I'll set them up so they're too tall, and the way that you do that is, yeah, what the hell, we'll just do a merger. So you put one down, see how it locks another one on top? If you lock another one on top, that is the perfect height for doing a lift elevator off the side. So you can see that is the perfect height. So if you just stack 3 of them and delete out the bottom 2, then you get that nice shape. And then you can easily walk under it. And it just kind of cleans up the base, just makes it look a lot smoother. When you're running belts all over the ground, kind of like I did in the original version, you could see how hard it was to get around. You had to jump over everything, and it just doesn't feel real comfortable or neat. And so this just feels a lot more airy. This isn't very efficient at the moment. It's actually not terrible, but you could definitely come up with a better way to do this, just because I have these feeding different directions. So ideally what you do, that was not on purpose, but thankfully I have the blade burners on. Typically what you do is I have one splitter that is right here that's doing it, so I loaded it so that plates are building more. Another way to do that would be to have a splitter that brings in plates down here, or brings the ingots in down here, so that these machines that are further down the line are getting enough ingots that they're not waiting until this entire line is backed up and completed before it's getting ingots. And you can sort of see that these are yellows. That means that they're done producing. At least in this instance, that's what it means, is that they're backed up. There's nothing more they can do. And ideally what you do is have those feeding into an awesome sink, so that any excess material is thrown into an awesome sink, and then you can have more unlocked. But again, you can see that I've got a lot of extra room here, and that's intentional. I plan on putting more stuff in here so that I can produce things a lot faster than I am right now. But this is just to get my feet off the ground with the production, so that I can unlock steel. And steel is the next big one. So let's do this. We jump up here. I did put up a ladder here just as a backup. You unlock the ladder in the Awesome Store, along with these glass roofs and glass walls. The glass floors are coming up. So this is the top floor, and you can see it's mostly backed up now. So this is rods. It's just coming in here. It splits off and feeds into this, which is making rotors. Or, no, that's modular frames. Okay. And then my plates are there, which they're just feeding up from down below. And I'm not sure why I put a splitter there. I'm sure I had a plan for that. I bet I was going to feed this over here with that, but for right now it's fine. So these are modular frames, and these are super useful. They become really useful later, and at the lower levels, they are probably the best thing to feed into an awesome sink if you've got spares of them, but it does take quite a bit of power and resources to build them. So I mean, they take reinforced plates and rods, so you got to have screws and plates and rods make one of those. And this one should be producing rotors. Okay. So again, everything here takes screws, so you always want to be producing screws. And so this one is rotors, which you can see I've almost got that one filled out, and then this will stop producing. This one is producing reinforced plates that is feeding the modular frames. And this one is producing reinforced plates. They're just reinforced plates. So that's there. You notice that this is a different color from all the other plates. You can do that by hitting Q, going up to Customizer, clicking on colors, and then you can just kind of select the color that you think is appropriate. And then you can change the color of pretty much anything. For right now I went with gray just because it's the iron station. So let's go ahead and jump down. So this will kill you if you do not have this thing down here. It does require power, so if it's not plugged in, you'll just slam into the ground, which is unpleasant. But there, we got that. Okay, let me I'm gonna go up. I'm trying to remember if it's 1 or 2. I think it's 2. It is 2. Okay. So thankfully I can drop this far with Blade Runners. Normally that would cause damage. So we come up here. Yeah, it's the one I want. So there's a bridge here. I'll eventually be deleting this bridge, and I'll kind of have this as like a balcony that you can just look out over things. Because eventually the train's going to be running through here and running out there, and it'll just be cool to be able to look on that. Right now, the space elevator is just floating. There is a plan to link it all up into that, and there will be a. Let's get over here so you got a little bit better view of it. The base will actually come down at like a 45-degree angle. This will be contained underneath it, and then that'll be the base that's going to be building all of my gear and ammunition, all kinds of other things. But yeah, so this is the main iron base now, which I've pretty much got up and running. So I've got all of my core goods between this and the copper base to unlock steel, and steel is a big one. But the thing is that a lot like iron, how I had to gradually build up to it because I didn't have enough power. Anytime you're about to make a jump to the next tier, which steel is the next tier, where you start unlocking all the cool stuff that steel can do, always make sure that you upgrade your power first, or you're just going to have stuff shutting down constantly, and it's real frustrating if you don't do that. Okay, you can't see the smoke on all of these, but all 8 of those are running. You can tell because all 8 of them have green on there. So what it was there are 4 water extractors feeding those 8. And I think you can actually underclock those a little bit. I don't think it needs the full 100% water, and underclocking means that it has less of a power draw too, because these things are kind of power hungry. And then 4 separate pipes coming down as opposed to the one with 300 in it. I did it with 4 separate ones. And each of those pipes is feeding 2 of these. So each time I add 2 more power plants here, which I'm definitely going to do, I've got to add 1 more water extractor and 1 more pipe coming down feeding it. And since I did that trick with the head lift where this lake is higher than where the power plants are, it'll keep feeding it. So now the problem is, where do I get the extra coal? So let's go over here, and the advantage of looking from up this high, this bridge won't be staying here. I just have this bridge mostly to run down and make this line. So let's see if I can do this now. Yeah, I would definitely die. So you can see that I dropped a column there. That's just so that I can line it up so it's on the same grid, facing all the same direction. Just makes it a little bit easier for running the trains and stuff much later. But another advantage to being this high is that all the foliage that's down here, you can't actually see it. You can only see the nodes. A little bit of a cheat, but is what it is. I think that's just a regular power node, but there are 4 there's 4 coal nodes here. So there's coal there, coal there. You can kind of see coal right. Try not to give you vertigo here. Yeah, right there and right there. So I'll have to see what purity those are. But the purity will be what determines how much coal I feed out here and how many more coal power plants I can make. But I want to have some left over, enough that matches this iron node. So whatever this iron node is, I need to have 1-to-1 with coal coming in and the iron coming in, because both of those will be used to make steel. And I believe it is a 1-to-1 rate. Actually, let's see. I can actually look at it right here. So we can do this. Down here, we'll look at iron ingot. Or not iron, steel ingot. Is, oh, it's 3 coal to 3. So it's 3 and 3. Okay. So, yeah, it basically is 1-to-1. It's just 3 to 3. So I need to make sure that the coal coming into the steel factory is the same amount as the iron coming in. And basically, all the excess coal at that point. So I'm going to take the total that these 4 coal nodes, I'm not explaining this very well. I'm going to take I'm going to take these 4 coal nodes, come up with the total amount of coal that they produce, subtract the amount that's needed for the steel factory, throw all of that down there, and then I'll have a line coming back in and feeding the steel factory and matching with this. Those total minus the iron will be how many coal factories I can go. And at a guess, it's going to be a lot. And that will give me enough power to run steel and probably a few more things. So steel will probably be one of the last ones. I won't actually be doing steel this time. I just kind of want to show you. I'll be doing that in a separate playthrough, just because as you've seen, it can take a long time to set up and grind and build these things. So it's easier just to kind of say, this is my plan, and then show you what that looks like when it's done. Now that I've kind of walked you through the first probably 5 or 6 hours of playing this game, just to kind of get you a good start. This represents probably about 10 hours of work, just building up enough power. Again, always build your power first, then build your factory, and that kind of cuts down on the frustration levels. So again, before I build this steel factory, I kind of have my plan for what it'll look like. And my god, look at all those little bee colonies. There's at least 4 that I can see right there. But now, I have this, which is a good bee killer. But build your power first, then build your factory. And that's what I'm going to do here, is each time I build a factory, I'm going to build the power to power that factory first. And I'm going to make sure that there's enough power coming in that that factory that I'm planning on building will run, and then a little bit excess just in case, because sometimes you don't have a power source like oil or coal around a new factory, so you want some excess. And there's a copper node there too, which I'm sure I'll make use of. My friend Sinister Puppy, who I will probably drag in at some point, he usually builds right in this valley. When you start in the stony desert, I think is what it is, you start somewhere like right out here, or right out here, and so if you run to the south, you come to this area, there's a lot of good iron and copper nodes. It's not quite as good as this area, but it's pretty good. And you got a lot of room to spread out. There's not a lot of critters in the immediate vicinity, so you're pretty good. And there's water, so you can scale up. There's coal that's up here, which I'm also going to tackle when I start building the factory out there. But for the steel factory, I'm thinking I usually build like a small one here, and then I build a much larger steel factory over there. I think this time I'm going to plan on making this one a little bigger and a little bit more efficient. I am probably going to fill this valley kind of the same way that I did with the copper factory, where it kind of like bleeds into the canyons and stuff. So kind of feed it over and around. You can see that there's a lot of beams here, so I don't really want to screw over their walking ground, so I'm going to build a little bit higher off the ground so that they can get under it. We'll just kind of see how that goes. So that's the plans for right now. And again, I'll be doing this as a series along with Star Citizen, which is going to be dropping to 317 pretty soon. Or 317.2. But that is pretty much it for this one, gang. So keep your eyes out for those episodes. We'll be building this one out. I'll keep going. I'll definitely be building this base and doing some more unlocks, showing that to you. It's really nice to have the Blade Runners back. Try to decide if I want to delete this bridge right now. Sometimes it's useful to have another way to get there, because the only other way to get there is to run down and around and over this little bridge and down this way. whereas my starting place is at the hub, which is right down here. It's pretty easy to jump up here and run across the bridge and then get down. So now I'm curious, did I actually unlock? Oh, yes, I did. Look at that. So I actually do have stairs now that I could run stairs down to this base. Might not do that yet, but I'll build out the power first. So first episode of the non-streams, I'll be building this base, or I'll build out the power, then I'll build out the steel. And then after the steel, we start unlocking some really cool stuff that we can start getting into. We'll start building up towards oil and plastics, rubber, computers, and then we're moving on towards nukes, which nukes, you can kind of just barely see the pink up there. A lot of the best uranium deposits and aluminum deposits are up there. So that's typically where my aluminum base goes. There's a swamp kind of over that hill, and that's usually where I build my first nuke factory. So that's it, gang. So keep your eye out for that, and catch me next time.